I'm going to start off with doing my eyebrows, what little eyebrows I have. So hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, salutations, kings and queens. If you're coming back, welcome back, babies. Before we start, do me a favor if you haven't already and click that subscribe button. As y'all know, I'm in the middle of med school admissions, and in my previous video I stated how I applied to both American med schools and Caribbean med schools. So in this video we're going to talk about just my experience in applying to both, some advice I have for pre-med students who are planning on applying. I recorded this video doing a get ready with me, you know, because we medical marvas over here. That's MUVAS. YouTube, don't play me with those captions and subtitles. But after I finished, I realized how long it took me, so I had to speed up this video and do a voiceover. Y'all, let's just hope my makeup skills speed up so this isn't the regular. Unless y'all want it to be the regular, you know, let me know. I'll place in the caption the makeup I use as well as the links to whatever I can find. I'm just kind of getting started into makeup, so I kind of only have the essentials. My homegirl Jahira gave me a lot of her makeup when I was just starting out that she never used, and I also bought everything else from like Savage Fenty. Shout out Riri, what's up queen? So that's kind of all the makeup I have. Okay, so let's get into this. I wanted to first give you all my stats before we get into my mindset and where I applied, why I applied there. And what was really important for me, and I'm sure other students applying now, is how I was able to apply to the schools I applied to. Okay, so stats first. I graduated undergrad in 2017. I got my BS in biology with a minor in psychology. And just for people who are starting to apply to colleges now in hopes of going to med school, you do not need to major in a science. I know I felt I needed to major in like pre-med, APA biology, psychology to be prepared for med school, but you just need a bachelor's degree in prereqs, which are like Gen Chem, Bio, Orgochem, Physics, Biochem, and you just need to take those on the side to satisfy the requirements to go to med school and take your MCATs. I wish I had known that, because if so, I think I would have, don't get me wrong, I love science, but I think I would have made that my minor versus my major. And by the time I figured that out, it was like my end of my year in sophomore year, and I was doing well in the grades I had, so I was like, why am I going to switch now? But yeah, just so y'all know. Anyways, while going through undergrad, I worked full-time to put myself through school. I had loans, obviously, just like all the loans that I could get in my name, like subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, had taken all those out. And I knew, like, going into college that I was going to have to put myself through college. I'm a first gen of 5 children, second to last born, and honestly just wasn't really expecting any financial help from my family because, you know, I feel like that's just the average experience for most first gen college students. Like, you kind of assume you're going to put yourself through college anyways. So yeah, you know, and understanding that your family can provide only so much because you're not the only one they have to take care of. So, and I also knew how much med schools love their candidates to be well-rounded. So I joined a lot of extracurricular activities. I was in AED, Alpha, Else, and Delta, which is the Medical Honor Society. I played club rugby. I was a subject tutor as well as a group study facilitator. Some neuro research for a semester. I shadowed in the ER for 2 semesters and somehow still managed to have friends. So yeah, I made sure I did all the things, right? I graduated, my overall GPA was 3.49, and my science GPA was a 3.0, like exactly. And I didn't want to go to med school immediately. I kind of like wanted to put my money where my mouth was, because especially back then, like I look back now and I was always helping, but I didn't see it then that I was doing that. So I wanted to put my money where my mouth is and actually help people. So I joined the Peace Corps and served in Zambia in Southern Province for 2 years before extending my 3rd year into Lusaka, which is the capital. But for some reason, I don't know why, I take my MCATs right out of college while everything was still fresh. Like I was like, yeah, I know I'll be able to study like a lot my 2 years and then just take it afterwards. I was planning on taking it my 3rd year of Peace Corps. I wasn't really able to study as well as I would have liked to study because there was just so much going on in the background. But you know, as I said, we push on, we continue, we don't make excuses. Let me tell y'all, it wasn't pretty. But we are so much more than a test number, and here's hoping those admissions see that, right? Here's hoping those admissions see that and understand how long I had been out of school when I took it. In case any of y'all see this. Now, when I originally recorded this, I hadn't heard back from any of the schools I applied to except the Caribbean ones. I applied to only 3 out of the 5 big accredited Caribbean schools, and the ones I applied to were Saba, Ross, and AUA. I got into all of them. I got rejections from Stanford, Tulane, and NYU the other day. And I just want to say for students applying right now and getting rejections, that it's not a testament to how good of a doctor you will become, but how you react to those rejections are. I would also like to think of medicine as in general becoming more holistic and understanding that health is so much more than just the amount. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's important, that is important, but that you're more than just the amounts of information you can attain, but also the ability to be empathetic and caring and understanding, and, you know, build rapport and a genuine relation so that there's mutual trust, and with that comes better overall diagnoses. But that's just me and all behavioral scientists though, regardless. Anyways, let's get into what the video is titled. So, the major differences between American and international schools, right? So first off, international schools accept lower GPAs and they also accept lower MCATs as well. They're more willing to like forgive, I think, in that aspect. But with that easier acceptance into med school comes a harder step in when you're applying to residencies. So you'll have to look at IMG friendly schools that are willing to accept you for residency. Some of the Caribbean schools you have to find your own clerkships, and there's only a particular amount of set American schools that even work with Caribbean schools. So you're already like having a smaller circle to work from. If you're someone who takes initiative and is like really outgoing in general, like I'm really outgoing, so I don't think that would be a problem for me personally. Knock on wood, you know, God willing. But that personally didn't really deter me, you know? Also, though, with Caribbean schools versus American schools, Caribbean schools classes are a lot bigger. Like, think state schools versus the average 60 students that would be in an American school. Like AUA, I was talking to one of the students that goes there now, and she said her class started at like 300, and she's second year now. I think there's already 150, so that's like half of the people already cut. And Ross is bigger. Saba, I think, is the smallest of the three, and they'll have like 100 students. So keep that in mind, that you aren't working, like the ratio of students to teachers is much larger, so you won't necessarily be able to just like ask questions, I guess, in class. Like you'll have to take the initiative to get other resources or talk to those teachers outside of class. Caribbean schools are for-profit schools, so there isn't that push as much as American schools to make sure you see it all the way through. In fact, I've heard it feels very competitive and very cutthroat among the students and just feels very tense. That's not really like worrisome to me personally, and here's why. Call me a dreamer, but I do genuinely feel your experiences are what you make of it, and I don't feel like I'm the person who would try to make my classmates feel like I'm trying to one-up them. Like in undergrad, I was always sharing my notes, always asking for others' notes. If like I made a riddle or a song to help learn about something, I would share it. Because this is a saying I recently got from one of the doctors I work with. Shout out to him and his advice. But the saying was, you can bring a buffet to a person with all the options and let them know what you think are the healthiest choices, but they're still going to pick whatever they want to eat. So in the same way, I figure if you share all your information with me, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to end up utilizing it all as a resource and vice versa. So not giving you like the resources I have, or you not giving me the resources you have, us not utilizing each other to grow and learn just feels like jealousy. Almost, or insecurity that you might surpass me or that I might surpass you, and it's just like, I don't know, that just feels like, I get it, we're all trying to succeed, but if you succeeding has to come at the detriment of another person, I just don't feel like we're meant to succeed then. Like, you should be able to succeed by like utilizing yourself and utilizing resources and not hindering somebody else, you know? Like, if you're really trying to hinder somebody or keep information from somebody because you're worried they'll surpass you, that just seems really sad. But I digress. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about that. So I applied to American schools and Caribbean schools at the same time, and if you already have done your research on Caribbean schools, there's this connotation that they're second chance medical schools, right? Like you apply to them once you've been rejected from American schools, both MD and DO, and I didn't do that. And again, that's just my mentality on things, but I didn't do that for a few reasons. I didn't want to feel like whatever school I went to, I didn't want to feel like I was going there because I had no choice. Like entering into med school itself, you should be in a positive, good mindset, because the next few years are going to be difficult. Like you're going to have a lot of hardships. And so entering the institution, whatever institution I was going to, I didn't want to go in an institution of learning with the mindset of like, you almost have to be here because you had no choice, other choices, you know, that just didn't sit right with me. I like the fact that Caribbean schools didn't give such emphasis on solely my MCAT. Now, I understand the MCAT is important, just like getting good grades in med school is important, because it's more about seeing if you can attain the material and apply it to similar concepts or tie together other things you've learned to solve a problem you've never faced before. But what's that quote? You know that quote by Albert Einstein, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. And I just know so many doctors right now that didn't do well on their MCATs. If they had taken that and internalized that as like, maybe I'm not meant to be a doctor, they wouldn't have been one, you know? And here's my thing on standardized tests in general, right? Like, I understand why we have them, but I don't understand why we have them, you know? Like, I think about when I'll be a physician and in front of a patient, I'll be able to ask them follow-up questions, you know? Like, it won't just be that prompt that's on that MCAT where you have A, B, C, D to pick from. Like, you'll be able to ask other questions, and even if you won't, you'll be able to see them. You'll be able to, like, you know, just gauge more. And you can't do that on an MCAT, on a prompt, on any standardized test. Like, you can't ask further questions. There's no follow-up questions. Like, that's all the information you have, and you have to make a resource based off that. But if you're the type of person that looks at multiple avenues and like looks at multiple perspectives and multiple ways a situation could be solved, that like is poison for you, to only have 4 answers to pick from and not be able to ask like more questions to gauge off to have a better response. So if it's not like mathematical or a formula question, you know, where like I know there's an answer, I'm just looking like, you know, like I was like, what? Help. But you know, it'll be like that sometimes. So do as best you can, for real, for real. I would like to offer y'all advice on the MCATs, but I didn't do super well. So I feel like I'd be lying to you to give you all this advice on something I didn't do super well on. I can give you, I guess, resources and references, like I said, but other than that, I just don't think I'd be the best in helping you study. Because the other reason I applied to Caribbean med schools is the environment. Like I said, I was in Peace Corps up until March of this year, until COVID, you know, said you ain't gotta go home, but you can't stay here on the Peace Corps. It's dying, baby. So yeah, I love being immersed into other cultures and learning about other people. I always have loved doing this. I just didn't realize I was always doing it. You know, like in high school and during college and throughout Peace Corps, I just always tried to connect with others on some common ground, and I like listening to other people's perspectives, and ideas that differ from me don't deter me. However, if someone expresses a belief that undermines a person's, you know, rights or will to live, not in constant fear, then yeah, don't. Especially in the climate we're in. And in case y'all didn't know, it is a Black Lives Matter account. Like, catch me on these streets peacefully protesting. All right, with a mask on. Okay, this is also a put a damn mask on account, please. Yeah, so honestly, political climate right now is a contributing factor to where I would want to see myself in med school for the next few years. Also, I think of the places I want to be after med school and residency now compared to like 3 years ago, and it's just so vastly different. Like, now I think of doing Doctors Without Borders, and I'll make a completely separate video about that. But think of like the experience and perspectives you'd get on like a global scale studying for not only American doctors, because Caribbean schools do have doctors from the States teaching you as well, but also doctors from underserved countries all over the world. And yes, you could say America has the same, but it's just has. And yes, you can say America has that, but it just isn't the same. You know, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So some of the schools that I applied to were, a good amount were medical HBCUs. So Meharry, Howard, Morehouse, CDU, mainly because, again, the enhancement of Black excellence is something I'm all about. I really do regret not knowing about HBCUs growing up. Don't ask. I don't know how. I didn't know either. But I didn't. And so when applying to undergrad, I didn't realize what an opportunity it would have been, just in terms of learning about myself, about my culture, about more about Black culture in general, the networking of once underserved minorities, helping and mentoring others to become the same is just beautiful. So take advantage of it while you still can. Oh my gosh, if you are applying, do that now. Okay, again, so I applied to Tulane, NYU, Stanford, Temple, UPenn, gotta represent the Philly places, you know, homegrown and all that. A few more that I can't remember off the top of my head. And I actually did apply to one DO school, and that was because it was just a really cool program, a DOJD program. So in 6 years, I would be like a doctor lawyer at the time. I was really contemplating running for president way later on in life, and now that's just and that's another story for another time, but that's probably just not what I want to do now in my life. So yeah, 1 DO school with a really cool program, 20 MD American schools, and 3 MD international schools. So I thought of how people kept telling me about the stigma of going to a Caribbean school and how I should just apply to more DO schools. And here's my thought, right? The stigma of American Caribbean schools is there until you're in residency, but then it doesn't matter. You're an MD doctor in residency, right? Going to a DO school wouldn't have the stigma while going to med school, and it would be easier to get a residency. However, once in residency, it'd be like, oh, you're a DO versus MDs, right? Like, that's the running joke between physicians, that it's like more prestige with the MD. So with being an MD doctor, yeah, it would be harder, and I would have to like do a lot of work, but once in residency, I'd be an MD doctor, and that's it. So versus like a DO. And I don't think there's a difference at all, but there is that connotation. So, like, I don't know. I just found that interesting. No shade, just interesting. What I think I've gotten just from my experience and advice I've gotten from fellow doctors that have let me speak with them, when it's to, like, going to American schools, they do really want to see you through. They do want you to graduate because, like, those numbers, like, that affects badly on them. Like, they want you to do well on the board. They want you to go to residency because, like, that's their stats going lower if you don't. Versus who went to Ross, Dr. Paul Skroma, who said that who actually has his own practice in Florida. So obviously you can be a Caribbean doctor and make it all the way through and do wonderful things. But he said that while going there, he had an overall feeling that he was going against the current, and rather than being mentored and helped through. And even while having all the great things he has now, he did say that he wishes that he possibly would have gone to a DO or just waited another year before applying to an MD. So, like I was saying before, I applied to them at the same time, and I genuinely do feel like that kind of helped me, because while talking to the Caribbean schools, I feel like they kind of realized like what a commodity I was. You know, like they realized how good I was because I was still waiting to hear back from other med schools, and I think that made them give me better scholarships. Like when I applied to AUA, I told them how I was still waiting for schools, and then when I got accepted, I didn't get any financial aid. Like they expected me to pay all of it out of pocket. And so I replied back, like respectfully saying thank you, obviously, for being recommended, you know, because a med school is a med school regardless, and I think you need to understand that and be respectful of being accepted. But also told them how like SEBA gave me a scholarship, and SEBA in itself is already a cheaper school to go to, a less inexpensive school to go to. So I kind of like finagled and said, hey, like, thank you so much. But as I told y'all during the interview, my financial stability, I don't want to have to worry about that. Like I had to do an undergrad. Like I want to focus solely on my education. And I think SEBA is more understanding of that. And right now they gave me more money. And lo and behold, your girl got a scholarship like the next day, double the amount that SEBA offered. And I'm not saying that like they did it because, I'm just saying like, understand your worth as a med student, understand like you are valuable, and like if there's a school that you kind of feel like I would be contributing a lot to you guys, and so kind of up the ante, do that. Like don't be afraid to sell yourself. And so I wouldn't have gotten that scholarship, I don't think, if I wasn't in the mindset of like kind of knowing I had other schools to fall back on, and kind of understanding that I'm a great candidate. Recently, I don't know what happened, if Ross knows something I don't, but recently Ross contacted with me offering me like a $78,000 scholarship and free housing there on the island. So I was like, what? Heard that, talked to AUA about it, my recruiter, and she kind of scared me a little bit. But like, she's my recruiter for AUA, so obviously she wants me to go to AUA. But I just feel like if you get acceptances from all the Caribbean schools, don't sell yourself short. Understand that like they are for-profit schools, right? And so they talk money. And so they understand that they want the best candidates possible. Like they want people who they think are going to be great. And so if you know you're a great candidate, use that, utilize that, like help yourself get the best, just the best experience at whatever school you're going to. And that's the same for American schools. Like if you get accepted to, like 3 American state schools and they're all great, like weigh leverage on that. You know what I mean? Like don't just go to those schools and be like, hey, like they accepted me too, so what do you got? You know, no, don't do that. That's ridiculous, and I would take away my acceptance from you if you did that. But like acknowledge, like, hey, like I feel like I would contribute a lot to your school. Tell them how excited you are to the school. If there's a certain program at that school that you actually found really interesting, state that in the letter about like how, like Temple has this really cool urban bioethics program that I thought was really interesting. Stanford had a women's studies that I spoke about, like things that relate to that school in particular, you know, like let them know that yes, I'm very interested in your program, but I also don't want to like be thousands and thousands and thousands of $100,000 in debt, you know. So if you can help me with that so I can focus on schooling and not always be worried about how much money I owe, that would be great. So yeah, I think I'm gonna cut this short. If y'all have any more questions, just let me know. As y'all see, my makeup is now done. I look cute. She a cute girl. Thank you for coming to my channel. I hope you guys liked this video. If you have any questions, please leave in the comments for me. I can do a part 2 because I'm not sure if I like fully did everything in this one, but I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you have, like I said, any questions, let me know. You can reach me a lot quicker on my Instagram, and I'll put it down below again, just because I can send voice messages rather than text, and I really hate texting. Anyone who knows me knows I personally will take like 5-6 business days to reply back to people. So yeah, if you need to get in contact with me, if you want to have any more questions, let me know. If you want to collab, if you are a medical influencer at the moment and want to collab, let me know, because one of the medical influencers who I'll put down below, her name is Lizzii Med. She answered so many questions for me, and I'm really grateful for her as well. She goes to AUA right now, and she's doing her rotations. I'll put her video down below so y'all can check her out. She's really cool. This Get Ready With Me was inspired by also another medical influencer, SeunSpeaks. I will put her video down below as well, so y'all can link and subscribe to her. She does a way better job though at like coinciding her makeup with her videos. So yeah. Anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. Make sure to like and subscribe. Have a nice day, and I'll see y'all again. Bye.